out of it. The first real assignment we got was for a newspaper ad as part of a test campaign that the previous agency had prepared, which was then running in Dallas and Fort Worth. They told us that they didn't expect miracles overnight, and that to meet this particular assignment, we could run one of the ads prepared by the previous agency and continue the campaign until we were ready to come down there with a full-fledged recommendation. And I said, the hell with that. In so many words, I said, the first thing we take down to 100 Park Avenue, in our first demonstration of what we can do for virtually a new brand of cigarettes, is not going to be somebody else's ad. So we started to work out there at the farm about 9:30 Saturday morning, and here's the way it went. The cigarettes are sissy. Some people think that filter cigarettes of any kind are kind of sissy, and we want to make it masculine. I said, what's the most masculine symbol you can think of? And right off the top of his head, one of these writers spoke up and said, a cowboy. I said, that's for sure. I said, go over there and draw this cowboy roughly. I have some layout pads, and let's make a great big sketch of this cowboy out of this book here. And he did that. I said, so far, so good. We got a masculine image. And but now, I've always felt that any product should have a source, a recognized source that people respect. Well, the name Phil Morris is very well known. It's a good name. So, across the top of this ad, in combination with this photograph, letter in there, new from Phil Morris. Give people something to recognize, hang on to. He did that. Okay, we had about this much space left under the picture. And I said, now put the package in there, over here, over in the left-hand corner. Not too small, not too big, and leave room for a caption. Flip-top box is an awfully good name. Well, another one of these guys piped up and said, I believe you might say delivers the goods on flavor. Well, he sat down at the typewriter and lighted a cigarette and scratched his head for a minute and banged out the coffee. Monday morning, we set the type on the ad. We dug up another picture of a cowboy, and we slapped this together in a matter of less than 24 hours, I would say. Well, the art director brought it in and showed it to me, and I just jumped out of my chair. I mean, I have been in the advertising business quite a while, but this is one of the greatest things I'd ever seen. Every instinct I had told me that this was it, you see. And I was so enthusiastic. We were much smaller in those days, but I started running up and down the hall showing it to people. I was so proud of it. Everybody cheered, you know. The client reacted the way we hoped he would. And they started running up and down the hall, too. Well, that's about it, except for television, of course.
You get a lot to like with a Marlboro filter, flavor, flip-top box.
This man smokes Marlboro cigarettes. What kind of a man is he?
Nothing I like better than flying. Up there, I'm pilot and navigator all in one. I go where I please. Good for a man to do once in a while.
You like to smoke, too?
Sure.
Why Marlboro?
You get a lot to like with a Marlboro filter, flavor, flip-top box.
This man smokes Marlboro cigarettes. What kind of a man is he?
I'm one of the hands on this ranch. I wouldn't trade places with anybody. Working outside suits me.
You like to smoke, too?
A cigarette's good company.
So everything we did seemed to spell mother, you know. It all kind of came together, and we made a few mistakes along the line, but some ads and some commercials were better than others, but that's the way it all started.
That's the way it all started, with a big bang. The new Marlboro pack and advertising were an overnight success. Marlboros were in such demand that additional packaging equipment had to be air freighted from England. Sales went through the roof, from 18 million cigarettes in 1954 to 6.5 billion in 55, and over 14 billion by 1956. But we've kind of skipped over one important element in the success story: music. The art of the musical jingle has played a real significant part throughout Marlboro's history.
What you're about to hear is the case history of a jingle. You're going to be taken back to the very beginnings, to the point where most jingles start, to one person by himself with a pad of paper, a pencil, and in this case, a piano. At this point, all the writer has to go on is one line of copy, a line which will appear in print advertising, and with luck, will be the basis for his jingle. His job is to work in the line and decide what else, if anything, should be written to set up the line. In addition, the melody must be memorable, singable, and simple. After a lot of false starts, one melodic line emerges. One of the requirements of a successful jingle is versatility. Can it be played other ways than just the original way?
You get a lot to like with a Marlboro filter, flavor, flip-top box. Filter, flavor, flip-top box.
Well, it could go as a march, quite obviously. How about a sweet and smooth version?
Julie London sings the Marlboro song.
You get a lot to like with a Marlboro.
You get a lot to like with a Marlboro. The first big, powerful Marlboro headline idea. We showed men with rugged hobbies and interesting occupations, men who looked successful and wore tattoos, suggesting they had come up the hard way and had made it, hinting at some romantic past. They were a breed apart and became known as the Marlboro men, and the Marlboro image started to emerge, with Julie London's sultry voice lending spice to the campaign. But how to keep it rolling? How to keep it fresh? In trying to stay a jump ahead of competition, a new line emerged. Where there's a man, there's a Marlboro.
Where there's a man, there's a Marlboro. You like the flavor of a Marlboro. Old-fashioned flavor in the new way to smoke. Make yours a filter, make it Marlboro.
That's how it all got started. And by 1957, we sold close to 20 billion Marlboros. That means in each and every day of 1957, we sold 3 times as many cigarettes as we did in the whole year of 53. 3 times as many every day. But today, Marlboro is more than just America's fastest growing cigarette. It's also the leading American brand overseas. But it didn't happen overnight. Marlboro suffered some real growing pains in the past 15 years, agonizing periods that I'm sure Leo and his people would just as soon forget. I know I would. There was a time in the late 50s and early 60s when Marlboro's sharp growth flattened out. In those days, just holding our own seemed quite an accomplishment because the whole character of the cigarette business was changing dramatically. If you were around then, you may recall the big impact the 1957 Reader's Digest article had. This article on smoking and health did much to change the structure and composition of the whole industry. While it accelerated the growth of filter cigarettes, it also gave birth to a new kind of filter, the hi-fi. Flavor filters, like Marlboro, got pushed aside for a couple of years, while high filtration brands, of which Kent was the leader, reaped the big benefits. Though it had less than 1% of the market in 1956, Kent's sales boomed, and in 2 years achieved an 8% share, while Marlboro fought to stay even. But we stayed with our original Marlboro concept and strategy. Marlboro had been conceived and developed as a full-flavor cigarette, and we kept it that way. Today, we are glad we did. This year, Marlboro sold 50% more cigarettes than Kent. But in spite of hi-fis, we stayed with the philosophy that has guided us over the years, to conceive, design, and promote products that fill vacuums in the marketplace. Parliament, Benson & Hedges Hundreds, and most recently, Virginia Slims, are good examples of this philosophy. Of course, Marlboro was our first, a full-flavor cigarette whose personality has grown richer through the years and has grown consistently from the full-flavor base on which it was originally established. At about this time, another challenge presented itself to the Marlboro brand. The flip-top box had contributed immeasurably to the early success of the brand. Now, however, the question still remained. Where was the limit for this packaging innovation? In 1958, at the urging of Joe Cullman, we introduced the Marlboro Soft Pack as a companion to our flip-top box. Today, nearly half of Marlboro sales come from our Soft Pack. And of course, we sell a lot more flip-top boxes than we did then. You may remember a couple of the fellows who helped us introduce this new package.
Open the package, Juggernaut. Fans, there's a new swing to Marlboro these days, and the reason is more and more smokers are buying Marlboro and the new king-size soft pack. Why?
The box don't flip, Harry.
Because the box don't flip. No, it does. The soft pack don't. It doesn't.
Okay.
Yo, look, Marlboro is the same cigarette. It just comes in two different packages.
You want to trade?
All right. No. Fans, in king-size soft pack or flip-top box, Marlboro gives you the flavor you want.
Chocolate, orange, vanilla.
Lemon?
Lemon.
No, not lemon. Fans, Marlboro is the filter cigarette with the unfiltered taste.
Pistachio.
Right. Wrong. Tell them about the exclusive Select-Rate filter.
All right, Marlboro. Get Harry in the extensive Select-Rate soft-size king pack or flip-top, box. That do it?
That did it.
The Saddleback campaign represents the next refinement in Marlboro advertising. Men were shown relaxing and enjoying their cigarette, and Julie London was there to help get them in the mood.
Wouldn't a cigarette taste good right now? Wouldn't you like a Marlboro? Get a world of flavor. Have one with me. Have a Marlboro cigarette. You get a lot to like with a Marlboro filter, flavor, pack, or box.
Athletes were also featured in later Saddleback ads and in the Marlboro Empty Stadium commercials. Charlie Connerly, John Arnett, Tom Harmon, Don Hudson, Frankie Albert, and Paul Horney.
The Packers against the Chicago Bears. Remember? This was the run that shattered the record. 176 points scored in a single season. Guess you felt pretty good about that score, Paul.
Sure did. And I feel pretty good about this cigarette, too. How's that Marlboro song go?
You get a lot to like. Filter, flavor, pack or box. Marlboro.
Marlboro advertising, from its inception in 1954, has consistently developed and grown from our original concept. The refinements along the way set precedents, not just in the cigarette business, but in advertising in general. Few campaigns have been as single-minded in purpose and as unique and fresh in execution. We were the first to use real men in our advertising instead of professional model types. This changed the whole advertising business, not just cigarette advertising. The non-model model became fashionable. In the early years, Marlboro masculinity was expressed through the use of a lot of different types. Then, in the later Saddleback ads, we seemed to be after a simpler expression of this idea, a single symbol of masculinity. We used athletes as models, lean, hard types, who were the personification of the Marlboro idea. But the one recurring symbol, the one type who projected the sharpest image of the Marlboro man, was the American cowboy. In a world that was becoming increasingly complex and frustrating for ordinary man, the cowboy represented an antithesis. A man whose environment was simplistic and relatively pressure-free. He was his own man in a world he owned. And he seemed to be an ideal symbol for our cigarette. The crystallization of 7 years of theme development. And we showed him standing in dramatic, low-angle photos against cityscapes, inviting smokers to join him in Marlboro country. Marlboro country, that was the label, the headline idea that seemed to hold it all together. The masculine cowboy smoking his cigarette in his private world, Marlboro country. And originally, we showed him in New York, in Yankee Stadium. We wanted to tell the world that we were leaders, that wherever people smoked for flavor, that was Marlboro country.
This is Marlboro country. The canyons of New York or Colorado. From the Golden Gate to the Great Divide. In all 50 states, the big switch is to Marlboro. Marlboro's richer flavor comes from the rare breed of tobaccos in its Richmond, Virginia recipe. The exclusive Select Trade filter smooths, but doesn't tame the taste.
You get a lot to like with a Marlboro filter, flavor, pack, or box.
Settle back in Marlboro country.
In these commercials, you see a sharpening of our image, with more focus on the cowboy's real environment. And this was the next refinement in our advertising, to put the cowboy in his world, today's West. And when we did, he became a more believable symbol of masculinity. The rugged, dramatic beauty of his world allowed him to also become a more visual symbol. And in visual terms, he was at his strongest. Words were extraneous. In fact, they might have had a negative effect. So our copy got shorter, and the image of Marlboro better defined and more fully developed. And today, the Marlboro cowboy is a part of the American scene. And some people, the inevitable imitators who've tried to capitalize on our success, seem to think it's public domain. There's national country, and Marlowe country, and Ford country, and cartoons, and kids' candies.
This is Cadbury country. Berry's Bar 6. For you, your buddies, even your best girl.
And the Marlboro coat, or Marley coat as it's called, has become standard apparel. In fact, a whole new trend toward Western menswear has been attributed to the impact of Marlboro advertising. But of course, imitation is just one indicator of a successful advertising campaign. The important one is sales. The changes of the late 50s flattened our growth. Then, as the effect of the Tar Derby waned, as our advertising became more dramatically focused and our image more powerful, we experienced a new period of growth. A period that saw us double our sales from about 22 billion cigarettes in 1960 to close to 44 billion by the end of '69. And Marlboro moved from the 10th ranking cigarette to an aggressive and growing number 3. And we figure about a year away from second place. Marlboro's growth, as well as the dramatic growth of Benson & Hedges 100s, the introduction of Virginia Slims, and Parliament's continuing contribution, has resulted in the Philip Morris Corporation becoming a major force in the cigarette business. Moving from last place among the major cigarette companies in 1962 to a virtual tie for third this year, with our share of industry growing from 9% to more than 15%. This, then, is the Marlboro Story. A story of how a specialty cigarette developed an image so powerful it became a part of the American language. A masculine image, so well defined that today the cowboy is synonymous with Marlboro. And Marlboro country has become a part of the American idiom. And when you add music to the cowboy image, there's no doubt about it. You are in Marlboro country.
Marlboro's dramatic theme music has played a big part in the Marlboro Story. Originally from the movie The Magnificent Seven, people now identify it as the music from Marlboro country. As long as men smoke for flavor, there'll always be a Marlboro country.